So the first question is from an anonymous submitter. They're asking, would it be possible to create a harm index for police incidences as opposed to crime? They've given examples of antisocial behaviour, missing persons, and road traffic collisions.
Right. Well, I'm going to answer that by talking about some of the master's theses at Cambridge that have done exactly what that question is asking about. The first person to do it was Chief Superintendent Dave Laws of the City of London Police, where there have been, sadly, many fatalities from traffic accidents involving lorries and other traffic congestion in the city. And he developed a traffic injury harm index that was more responsive to the actual physical damage done to human beings than it was to the sentencing guidelines, which aren't very specific with respect to how much harm somebody suffers if they're knocked off their bicycle. And the question of criminal liability there, I think we think is less important than the amount of physical injury, the life-threatening or life-altering kinds of damage. So I think it was very useful for him to develop it for that specific purpose. And we wouldn't say that that should be included in the crime harm index. It's the idea of using the crime harm index as a metaphor, as a model for focusing on any particular kind of policing. Another good example is Kent McFadzean's development of the fraud harm index, which is part of his work also with the City of London Police. And not to be focused just on the city, Ralph Jackman with Norfolk Police developed a sex offenders harm index to be used specifically for managing people who are on the registry of sex offenders. Ryan Doyle was using harm index in various ways with the missing persons report that has just been published, an analysis of 92,000 missing persons cases from Devon and Cornwall over 11 years. So what I'd encourage anybody who's working in a particularly complex area to do is to think, well, is the off-the-shelf principle of a sentencing or sentencing guideline-based index what we need for this particular problem? And if the answer is no, develop something that's more appropriate. The main point is to get away from counting all crimes as if they are created equal. And I don't think anybody here would argue that they are.